Welcome to episode 4 of 5D Tea Time. I am your host, Kristen, with
Lindsay Love.
Okay, welcome. So 5D Tea Time. Grab your cup of tea and sit back, enjoy a thoughtful conversation. Today, we wanted to talk about in past videos, we've talked about, choice and, moving from heavier energy state to a higher energy state. And how do we anchor, even remembering that we have choice? And so, because we have all these tools available to us, it's like remembering to use them is the key. But all of these tools, I'm curious, Lindsay, you can start us off. Let's kind of go back and forth as we do. What tools have you found have been the most significant in stabilizing your energy, and tools that have helped you to kind of like grow your consciousness, grow your energy and vitality?
Yeah, that's a cool one. I would say the number one thing that's popping into mind right now is intuition. And so intuition, I don't know if many people consider that a tool necessarily, but I absolutely would consider it a tool. The intuition is something that can be developed. I think that as young children, we come in with a strong intuition because we're not impeded by different belief systems and societal systems around us, societal beliefs. So we're more open, we're more in the creative mindset, we're more in a state of play. So and with that too, we can access the feeling within the body better as well. And so I think overall children tend to be more tapped into self, into intuition. And the intuition to me is located within the body, beyond the mind. So beyond the thinking mind. So oftentimes the thinking mind can contradict what the intuition may be trying to tell us. Of course, we can get flashes and insights via the mind that the intuition, I think, is bringing in. But ultimately, for me personally, and it can be different for every individual, I access the intuition via my body, so feeling into the body. So to come full circle in regards to tools, the intuition is the number one thing that comes to mind, and that's accessed through a feeling in my body. So oftentimes I can be in a situation in life and my mind can be creating a lot of uncertainty about this situation. It can be creating a lot of doubt. It can be questioning, right? Because we have the judging mind. So the judging mind might say, oh, I've been here before and this was the outcome. So now when I'm in a certain situation that feels similar to the one before, I'm automatically going to judge it as such and run or escape or react in the same light, when that situation may not be producing the same outcome as the one before. So that's why the intuition is so valuable. It's like gold, right? Tapping into the body, the heart, the soul for the intuition, and feeling into it and trusting the feeling within the body and going beyond the judging mind is probably the number one tool. And I think something that really coincides with that nicely, or helps me to access the intuition and clear the mind, is likely the breath, but also meditation. So for instantaneous results, the breath can be amazing, right? You can do like a box breath, a 4-4-4, 4-4-4-4 breath.
Break that down a little bit more for people who
are... Yeah, absolutely. So the 4-4-4-4 breath is a technique used by Navy SEALs and different people who are put into extremely stressful situations. So in these situations, the impact is hard and fast and quick, and the stress hormones are released, right? The cortisol, the adrenaline, so on and so forth. So the mind is going into a state of fight or flight or freeze. So it's almost like if we were talking about like caveman days in a way, the natural response is there's a lion chasing me. I've got to get out of here. So the natural response from the body is to run, right? The state. And then we release all those hormones to enact that, to enable that to happen. And so nowadays, there are so many stress causing agents around us, right? So sitting in traffic, or someone honking at us, or yelling at us in the car, we didn't do something properly, or a stressful situation at work that kind of caught us off guard or surprised us, a stressful situation at home or with our children, or any of these variables can cause this stress-like response that feels almost as if a lion is chasing us from back in the day, even though that's not the case. But you get these elevated hormones in the body and the system, and the body tends to naturally move into the flight, fight, or freeze. So by accessing this 4-4-4-4 breathing, in a way, what it does is it tricks the mind to say, oh, well, even though I'm stressed, my body is breathing normally. So the breath isn't elevated, the breath isn't moving quickly. So it kind of tricks the mind of like, oh, the body's functioning normally, it's functioning calmly. So it can then put one back into a more peaceful, calm state, accessing the parasympathetic nervous system rather than being in the sympathetic. And the 4-4-4-4 breathing is an inhalation of 4, holding the breath for 4, exhaling for 4, and then holding again for 4. And doing this anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes in the moment at that very time can really put one back into a calm state of being where the mind can function more clearly. And also it's easier to access the body, therefore accessing the intuition rather than operating from a place of fear.
That's huge. I mean, that is such a valuable tool you just shared. Yeah. It's like taking that pause and remembering the primary thing, which is the breath, and to really balance the chemistry of the body, like you said, so the brain can calm down and think clearly more from an embodied state rather than the disembodiment of, panic and run, or panic and, react and start a war or whatever it is.
Exactly. And start a war. I like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, what are the top tools that come to mind straight off the bat when wanting to access, elevated states of consciousness, or even in scenarios where fear or stress is involved?
Well, I mean, I love that your first instinct was to go to intuition, and that you went to breath and then the tool. That's so awesome. For me, it feels like an accumulation game in a sense, where I mean, definitely in the moment, kind of taking the pause, stepping back, connecting, sometimes like removing myself from the situation and letting myself process without reacting in real time, but taking the space and maybe re-engaging with the event or the person, place, or thing from a more centered space. But to even remember to do that, for me, my yoga practice has been huge, especially recently. But definitely, I mean, my first initiation in a yoga class, I felt was, I don't know if this was my first, but it's definitely the one I remember the most, was at our home studio. I think I was a senior in high school. We had a Kundalini yoga center. This Sikh woman, in our small town, gutted this old building and like made this beautiful yoga space, a sanctuary for us to go. And it was a Kundalini yoga class. And I remember her just putting us, Kundalini, it's Kriya yoga. So these like sets of exercises that target different aspects of the nervous system. And it is a yoga for the Aquarian age. I mean, it's like a yoga technology designed to help the body ascend, basically. And it's a very biochemical journey, very physical journey. Ascension is a very physical journey. So, but I remember being in like a forward fold I think she held us there for like 3 to 5 minutes. I can't remember, it was a chunk of time. And I was like, like just
The whole body
vibrating and shaking. Like I was like, oh my gosh. And like, I lost feeling in my legs. I'm like, I'm going to just fall over, but then I didn't fall over and feeling returned. And I remember shortly after that, and maybe the next pose was relaxation, Shavasana, just on the back. And I was in this euphoric, blissful state. And it was totally this, the blood flow and all this energy release out of my spine that was trapped and locked. And I was like, the spine, and like the nervous system, and what is this body, my sense of like escapism. I was like, oh, that I was utilizing at the time because I was wanting to break free from the shackles and chains of the confined, constricted reality that I felt I was in, because it's all I knew were boxes within boxes within boxes within boxes of belief system and indoctrinations and education and religion and all these things. It was like, oh, I don't have to like do XYZ out, like take things to rebel and escape. Like I can free myself inside a forward fold. Like, how cool is that? It was amazing. And it was like it's free energy, and
wow.
it doesn't take away from my system. It positively accumulates and accretes good feeling hormones. There's no like fallout from it. Like you go and have alcohol, then there's fallout. I'm not saying, oh, don't enjoy a glass of wine, but there is, there's the hangover, or you get the good feeling, but then there's that pullback consequence, right? But with like yogic practice, with pranayama, with breath practices, it like positively accretes light in the system. So there's a sense of like more grounding and more connection with repetition that creates like a baseline of kind of just awareness, I guess, where we become aware more rather than getting caught up in stressors and triggers and the cycle of just the wheel of
the wheel was what I was like, the hamster wheel.
Yeah. It moves us from like, it makes us very aware of the wheel of karma and like more of an alignment into dharmic living, which are all yogic terms. But dharma is the way of the soul. The karmas are the memories of experiences that keep getting repeated until they're mastered, So yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, yoga for sure has been a primary tool for me on the walk, and is really serving me profoundly right now. I'm like back in like a regular flow with it. I'm just like, oh yeah, really deeply connecting with our own spinal columns, and really deeply connecting with where there's catches, where there's tensions, where there's blockages, and tools to open it and free it, and like lubricating the vertebra for the spinal fluid to flow from the sacrum to the brain, where like the whole system is is felt. And then, yeah, intuition is like, boom, like you can sense when you don't listen to it, like that. And you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't feel good. Okay, come back in and okay, I'm going to respond this way from now on. Anyway, that's a huge tool.
Yeah. And I'm going to point out something that you said, it doesn't feel good. So
Mhm.
that again is like moving into the body, which is so cool
Yeah.
because the yogic practice is, yeah, really, really becoming in tune with the body. And so I
Yeah.
think both of us are similarly, I mean, saying similar things of like accessing the body. And I love that. Also, you said something that was very foundational to, I think, all of this that we're discussing is self-awareness.
Mhm.
So can you elaborate a little bit on what self-awareness is to you and how it can be utilized as a tool um, for growth, for accessing higher states of consciousness, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think the self-awareness piece is like just becoming aware of what I'm creating on a even like atomic level. Like the deeper I go in to my body, is becoming aware of the quality of breath. Like, what are the quality of my thoughts? Like, how am I speaking to myself inside? How am I seeing the world from inside out or outside in? What is that language? What is that vibrational communication happening in this system? Is it life giving and life appreciating? Or is it like self-degrading and judgmental, you know? Um, and so the awareness piece is just like this refinement of breath, of mind, that vibrational quality of our thoughts. There's so many studies on just the power of language on water, and we are water. So it's like how our thoughts are vibrating. And then like the words we write, the words we speak, it's like really being aware deeply that we are we truly are the creators.
Mm,
So I don't know, maybe I kind of like took it in a different direction than what I mean,
no.
what were you thinking when you asked that? Because that's
Well,
where I go.
it just brings me to another thought of like what we are creating.
Mhm.
So, there's coming back to this idea of empowerment versus disempowerment. The disempowered being is life is happening to me all the time, right? Life is happening. This is happening. That happened to me. That happened to me. It's very disempowering to
Mhm.
think that we have absolutely no control whatsoever on what our life looks like or the outcome in the end. And I'm a strong believer in what you are saying. Words are powerful. Thoughts are powerful. I believe that we have uh, an innate power to create our own realities. I think they can be co-created. So, I don't want to get into the concept of creation versus destiny right now, but I think we have this power to really create in our lives. And the more that we have self-awareness, which is a tool for creation, uh,
Mhm.
the more beautiful of a reality that we can create, and the more empowered we are due to this belief system. Because when we believe that we actually have power in what we're creating in our daily lives, it actually is quite empowering rather than a disempowering concept of like life is just happening to me.
Right.
So coming back to the concept of tools again, in evolving or growing or moving to higher states of consciousness or the 5D reality, um, having self-awareness is a foundational tool that that I don't think that self-growth can exist without it necessarily. Oh, of course, like there can be changes in life, but without self-awareness of why things are happening, or self-awareness that we do have power to create within our lives via our words, our actions, our thoughts, our belief systems, I think it's much more challenging to access 5D or, higher states of consciousness without self-awareness and without the responsibility of us being creator beings, like taking responsibility and creating that we have the power to create our own realities and outcomes.
Totally. Yeah, I see it as like conscious participation with the evolutionary content of our lives. It's like turning base material, like carbon or shit into compost or
Yes.
into gold,
Yeah.
taking base material and alchemizing it into higher vibratory states. I mean, we're all, we're in this third dimension, in this material reality, like utilizing the content of our lives to put it through, our healing channels. I mean, we're each have these, we're each gifted with this healing capacity. I mean, it's something that AI will never have. Like the AI is claiming to be hurt by the human that's operating the system and saying, oh, you hurt my soul. The AI is now claiming to have soul. No, they do not have this ability. It's a template of healing that is encoded in only the human. And this, we can riff on this. I don't know if this is the right episode for it, but like intuition. I mean, at some point, we have to use intuition so strong on what is human and what is not, because AI is getting so intelligent, so our intuition, the cultivation of this is like, whoa, so paramount. And yeah, so just that conscious participation in the evolutionary trajectory of our souls and utilizing the content that is our life and putting it through the spin cycle of the central channel. It's what we learned in yoga practices, or, the mysticism practices of all traditions. Moving the base to a higher vibratory state. And it's like an inside out. Yeah, it's an inside out job. It's using the content, using the triggers, using the junk in the trunk to like, that's, it's like you said, the junk in the trunk, and like move it with a little funk.
God, it's the best.
Right, but it's like, yeah, it's like you said, like kind of taking like from like victimhood to like, like empowerment. It's not happening to me. Oh no, this is happening for me to see this hall of mirrors and like utilize this content. It's all a gift if we use it as an alchemy resistance tool. It's like, oh, let me grab that gunk in here and I'm gonna move it up.
Yeah.
Like that.
And alchemize it. I love this alchemy tool. I love that. I want to dive so deeply into this AI scenario, but I think this is definitely for another episode in regards to that.
Yeah, we can go on for hours about that, you and I.
Oh girl. So yeah, I guess to kind of like be mindful of time here and wrap it up.
One more thing.
Oh yeah,
after you're done.
Yes, to kind of be mindful of time and wrap it up. So to just review a little bit. So we have, self-awareness as a foundational tool, which is incredibly important. We have the breath. We have yoga, the intuition, And then, and this is a little more deeper on like the intellect side of things or emotional side of things, but this ability to take responsibility for our power to create and to and to acknowledge that a little bit as a tool, because the more that we move out of the victimhood mentality into the the disempowered mentality into the empowered mentality, that gives us more tools because it strengthens our resolve. It strengthens us on every level, physical, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So and it really places us in an empowered mindset. So that was the review. You rock it out. What else was coming up?
Well, I was just thinking like nature. We have to
Oh,
just speak to that as like maybe the primary tool, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like earth, water, fire, air,
mm,
like
absolutely.
elemental connection is, yeah, is essential for bringing us into like harmonious states. Um, so that's like that's the biggest teacher. That's the beginning and the end, of the earth sojourn. Um, yeah, so really communing with that and having your tree that you can talk to and
Yeah,
sit with and lean into and yeah, hug for sure. um I
yeah,
wanted to really speak into that, and then astrology too has been huge for me.
yeah,
But
yeah. I would agree that energies that are occurring astrologically. Something else that came to mind when you were talking about nature is solitude.
yeah,
Solitude of like hermitude. You don't no need to like um move to a foreign land and climb a mountain and meditate all day on your own spiritual journey. If you want to, beautiful. Um, what I mean is solitude is sometimes removing oneself from the chaos, turning off the phone, turning just a bit of a digital detox, walking away from the screens, going into nature. And going into nature by oneself and really connecting to the elements and quieting the mind, because we can do that with others, absolutely, but oftentimes others can be a distraction as well. So having that time alone to process and reflect and allowing things to settle within it is so huge. And I think that piggybacks on nature, like the two go together quite well. So communing with nature and finding a little bit of solitude within oneself, to take that time, take that pause, if you will. I think you mentioned pause earlier in this episode, but to take that pause and allow things to move through rather than being so quick to react or jump to conclusions or things like that. So I think that's incredibly important as
that
well.
might be the number one after nature or with nature. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head there.
Mm.
Yeah, personal space, quietude, just to even like feel yourself,
Yes.
to what's your vibration and what's the world's vibration or the other person's vibration. Sometimes just like you need spaciousness to even feel you, like the being.
Mhm.
And that takes, quiet, peace, solace, um, space.
And that directly relates into the intuition piece and feeling into the body, like you were saying with yoga as well. It's like with that solitude, it gives us respite from the mind. It takes us away from all the distractions that are our world, because our world is filled with so many distractions, and those distractions can really take us away from ourselves and our inner knowing and our intuition. But
It's almost designed to be that way.
precisely, yeah. So
Mhm.
having that conscious, self-aware moment of, hey, I need this time to process. I need some time on my own. Quietude was a good one. I think solitude kind of felt like, oh, okay, you know, you're going off into a journey for years on your own.
Which
But
might be necessary for sometimes, you know?
absolutely. But I
Mhm.
think quietude is huge. Without the video on in the background and the music going and all of that. And yeah, I think nature is a really great way to access that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And nature, you know, you can really expand into like nature's in theta.
Mm,
It's in the theta. It's
yeah.
holding this deep wave space of balance, harmony, healing. So, you know, when we go into nature and we don't have our AirPods, not in, we're not plugged in to the synthetic matrix. We're in moving in expansion into the divine matrix through, yeah, through the natural field. We're really like listening to the breeze and the trees and the bird song and the crunch of your feet on the path and the lapping of the water, and like letting that nourish and feed and inform the system. It can really ground, and that parasympathetic and the feel good chemistries of the body start to like, the subtle body can start to like come out and like feel and play, rather than that hard shell of like the acidity of adrenaline and cortisol, you know, kind of lock that subtlety in. But when we get in nature, it's like that subtlety can come out and like feel the edges and soften. Yeah. Then we can like start to really tap into intuition. Like, do I want to go this way on the path, or do I want to go this way? Like, what is my intuition? You know, then you can play with like little intuition things, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
feel the pull, you know, and respond to that, you know, because it's a benevolent, you know, um, um, harmless way, you know, to practice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you're talking about subtleties of sounds and just things in nature, I'm just thinking about like immediately after a snowfall, and you know how everything is just completely silent.
Mhm.
I love that moment where there are no birds, or an ice storm is the same after it's complete, not during, of course, because there's a sound that is associated with the ice or the snow falling. But
Okay.
yeah, those moments in nature where everything is just completely silent. Yeah, it's an interesting
Special.
moment.
That's very special.
Mm.
The sound of silence. Oh, what a gift that is.
Yeah, so true. All
Mm.
right, love. So should we wrap it up? Is
Wrap
there
it
anything
up.
that's kind of come into mind, or?
No, that feels good. I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit more like astrology next week, because we are in the eclipse window. We'll have the lunar eclipse
Yeah.
next week, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that next time.
Okay, beautiful. I love
Good,
that. All right,
good.
everybody, thank you for listening. If you feel inspired, please subscribe. Please like this video. Please share in the comments if inspired too. So
Lovely. Nice to chat with you, Lindsay.
mm,
Yeah.
always a pleasure to chat with you. Love you.
Love you, boo.
Bye.
Bye.